Welcome to The Explainer. So, today we're tackling what has absolutely become one of the most massive, fast-growing headaches in the corporate world right now, and that's ungoverned AI. Look, across almost every industry, employees are quietly using AI to do their jobs, but they're doing it completely outside of official IT channels. It's chaotic, it's incredibly risky, and honestly, it's keeping executives awake at night for good reason. But we aren't just going to sit here and admire the problem. We're going to break down a structured, proven solution to actually fix it, using a framework developed by John Kalshikot called Integrated Process Excellence, or IPE.
All right, first, let's make sure we're on the same page here. Shadow AI is basically the rapid, informal adoption of AI tools by your employees acting way outside any sanctioned process or governance structure. You can really think of this like water, right? If you don't build a structured, intentional channel or plumbing system for water to flow through, well, it doesn't just stop flowing. It floods literally everywhere. It finds the path of least resistance. And that is exactly what happens with employee AI usage. If you don't build that channel, the AI is going to flood your operations in entirely unpredictable ways. Now, here's the real paradigm shift. Shadow AI is rarely a failure of employee judgment. Actually, it is a rational response to a gap. I know, it's so easy to just point the finger at the employee who pastes company data into some public chatbot and label them, a rogue actor. But honestly, that employee is usually just trying to hit a deadline. The employee is not the bad guy here. The true villain is the process vacuum they're forced to fill, simply because the organization hasn't provided a sanctioned way to work smarter. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here is our roadmap for the explainer. First, we'll look at the shadow AI trap, then why governance policies fail. Third, we'll enter the IPE framework, then look at sanctioning AI through data, and finally, we'll map the journey from shadow to sanctioned.
Section 1. The Shadow AI Trap.
So this trap really exists in that dangerous disconnect between those notoriously slow official IT rollouts and the immediate pressure of employee deadlines. Picture this. IT says, hey, we'll have an enterprise AI solution ready in 8 months. But the employee says, my report is due at 4 p.m. today. Right? And when that trap snaps, the hidden costs are severe. Let's walk through them. First up, you get totally inconsistent outputs across teams doing the exact same process, just because everyone's prompting their personal AI a little differently. Second, you have absolutely zero audit trail, connecting a decision back to approved data. Third, and this one is terrifying for compliance, sensitive proprietary data gets exposed to ungoverned consumer-grade tools. Fourth, all that incredible knowledge of how to actually get good results, it gets trapped inside a single employee's prompt history. When they leave, that capability literally walks out the door with them. And finally, you end up with a complete inability to scale what actually works. Section 2, why governance policies fail. So if leadership knows about all those compounding costs, why can't they just, send out a simple policy memo banning unauthorized AI? Well, because memos don't stop the bleeding. To see why, let's contrast two forms of governance. On one hand, we have technology governance. These are your high-level guardrails, stuff like the EU AI Act, the NIST AI Risk Management Framework, or enterprise tech rules from Google Cloud. Now, these are absolutely crucial for building and monitoring the tech itself. But on the other hand, we have deployment governance. This is the operational discipline, the focus on specific business processes and data ownership, and it is currently missing in most organizations. A high-level tech policy doesn't give a worker a faster way to do their job today. And without that deployment layer, your team is just going to keep finding their own workarounds.
Section 3. Enter the IPE framework. To fill that massive deployment gap we just talked about, we turn to John Kashitz's Integrated Process Excellence Framework, or IPE. Now, this model is rooted in Roger Slater's foundational work back in 1996, and it provides the exact operational discipline layer we need to fix this whole mess. According to the IPE model, everything hinges on one core paradigm shift. Process first, tool second. We absolutely must define and own the process logic before any AI tool is ever introduced. If you do this, you completely eliminate that vacuum we talked about earlier. There's just no empty space for an ungoverned tool to fill because the process itself already dictates exactly what good output looks like.
Let's actually look at how the IPE steps make this a reality. Step 3 is document the process. This creates a literal structural home for the AI. Then step 4 is communicate the process. This is key because it ensures the approved, AI-enabled workflow is actually known and accessible by the team. It completely removes the, oh, I didn't know the right way to do it excuse. And then step 5 is measure and control the process. By building measurement right in from the start, you immediately catch any of that unauthorized AI drift early, way before it becomes this undocumented, entrenched habit.
I want to dig a little deeper into that documenting step for a second, because it's pretty fascinating. IPE establishes the structural backbone through what's called a process hierarchy. So you start at the top with your 1.0 area, then you move down to the 1.1 activity, and you drill all the way down to the 1.1.1 element. This is critical. This structure gives AI a highly specific, sanctioned point of entry right there at the element level. You aren't just informally bolting an AI tool onto some random department. You are slotting it exactly where it belongs in your organization's very DNA.
Section 4. Sanctioning AI through data.
Okay, so now we've given AI a sanctioned home in our process hierarchy. But we have to recognize that even if the AI is in the right place, it is useless and honestly dangerous if it's using the wrong information. And this brilliantly illustrates where the causal KIV, KPV, KOV architecture comes into play. KIV stands for Key Input Variables. This ensures the AI is fed by traceable, governed data. Next, KPV, or Key Process Variables. These are the strict rules and limits the AI absolutely must follow. And finally, KOV, the Key Output Variables, which define what acceptable final AI output actually looks like. By locking this specific architecture into your process element, you completely stop employees from just feeding ad hoc prompts with unverified data or, pasting screenshots into public chatbots.
But you might be wondering, how do you know where to deploy this architecture first? Well, the IPE framework uses SMEA scoring. That's Success, Mode, and Effects Analysis. Basically, you score potential AI applications based on benefit, occurrence, and mitigation, or BOM. This is fantastic because it identifies the process elements with the highest temptation for employees to use unsanctioned tools. It essentially takes that vague cultural worry about shadow AI and turns it into a concrete, prioritized, data-driven list of exactly where your organization needs to formally deploy AI next.
Section 5, From Shadow to Sanctioned.
So, what is the ultimate organizational outcome when you actually adopt this framework? The biggest takeaway here is about redirecting employee initiative. When you implement IPE specifically through Step 6, which focuses on continuous improvement, you do not crush employee initiative. Actually, scratch that, you want that initiative. It's a good thing. Instead of crushing it, you capture all that innovative energy and you channel it into a single, measured, and deliberate process that the organization actually controls and benefits from.
And the really great news is, you don't have to build all this from scratch. John Cotchett has already built what are called IP packs to really fast-track this architecture for you. There are literally 81 sector-specific process intelligence libraries available right now, spanning manufacturing, quality, and general enterprise functions. They document the areas, the activities, the elements, and that entire KV, KVP, KOV architecture for you. I highly recommend reaching out to him at johncotchett@ip.services to discuss an AI governance assessment for your own organization. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought today. Is your AI an asset you actually own, or is it an unaudited liability scattered across thousands of employee prompts? Remember, if you don't build the channel, the water will flood. The shadow AI gap is a process gap. It's not a discipline problem. It is time to fix the process. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this gives you the structured clarity you need to take back control of your organization's AI future.